So this is Michelangelo, who is one of the master of the Renaissance, and he's gradually regarded as one of the finest sculptors in the Western tradition. Some would say greatest. So this is David statue by Michelangelo. Looks beautiful sculpture. So the Michelangelo is a Renaissance sculptor, architect, and painter. And he is a rival of the Leonardo da Vinci. And his name means Archangel Michael. And he began serious work as an artist at the age of 13 and did not stop until um, uh, 76 years old. And his equal may never be seen again. So this is also Michelangelo's sculpture. So sculpture's materials include diverse materials such as marble, metal, ceramics, wood, glass, wax, ice, plastic, and fiber. And sculptors' methods today still include chiseling, like this, as Michelangelo did, and curving, modeling, assembling, and constructing. But inventive sculptors are finding new ways to create their art and new materials to make it with. So there are two types of sculpture for displaying in terms of display. So first, the style is freestanding sculpture, which is three-dimensional approach. And the other style is relief sculpture, so which is specifically designed for viewing from one side. So let's see freestanding sculpture first. So this is freestanding sculpture style. So although some freestanding sculpture is not intended, most freestanding sculptures display for showing every point of view like this. And this is a powerful and a beautiful sculpture by Gian Bologna, who is a Flemish artist working in Florence, Italy, designed the Rape of Sabine at the request of Florence ruler, Francisco de Medici. The sculpture forms a kind of spiral that draws the viewer around to view its many changing planes. With each step, the viewer can discover unexpected details as the surfaces spiral upward. And it recreates an ancient story about the foundation of Rome. Most of the early founders of Rome were male. For the city to grow, the Romans needed wives. So they solved this problem by inviting their neighbors, the Servians, to a festival during which the Romans seized the Servine women and forced them to marry. So this story symbolized the ability of a small community to become the most powerful city in Italy. And with this dramatic sculpture, Francisco announced to the Florentines and their enemies that, like Rome, Florence had risen to become a force to be reckoned with. So let's see relief style of sculpture. So there are two ways of relief in sculpture. One is bas relief, and the other one is high relief. Can you find the difference between bas relief and high relief? What's the difference?
High relief seems like more raised,
Mm-hmm.
like
That's
as far
right.
as the um,
Like a foil.
Yeah, that's right.
the imaging is raised.
Very good. Yes, exactly. So in bas relief means low in French. The sculpture's marks are shallow. An example of this kind of sculpted surface was found in the north palace of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal in the ancient city of Nineveh in Mesopotamia, where is current place in Iraq. And this high relief, uh, the British sculptor Susan Durand chose to incise the surface more deeply for the figures um, closer to the view. So, sculptural methods are either subtractive and additive. So in the subtractive processes, a sculptor uses a tool to curve, drill, chisel, chip, whittle, and saw away unwanted material. And in the additive processes of modeling, casting, constructing, sculptors add material to make the final artwork. So these are very popular method of sculpture, and we are going to see a few of these sculpture method now. So it looks familiar, right? So the most ancient works of art that still exist were made using subtractive method of sculpture. So most of these were made of stone and were worked by chipping, curving, sanding, and polishing. So one of the largest and the most famous sculptural portraits was executed using the subtractive method, carving on a mountainside in South Dakota. The Mount Rushmore National Memorial was executed by John Borglum, and Borglum approached the task with great care and drive, changing the original idea of local figures to that of four presidents. And he spent 2 years looking for a mountain with the right stone characteristics to make the work a success. Most of the subtractive sculpting was done by skilled miners using dynamite and placed um, straight, strategically to remove large masses of stone. The choice of location and drilling practice were essential because once the stone was removed, it could not be replaced. And this is modeling method of sculpture. So modeling in clay and wax is an additive process. The artist builds up the work by adding material. Clay and wax are pliable enough for sculptors to model them with their hands. Large sculptures, such as this ancient coffin sculpture, are built from multiple pieces fired individually. So we can see here assemblage line in the middle of the sculpture. So 4 separated baked clay pieces made up this cotton sculpture. And let's see the casting method in additive style. So casting involves adding a liquid or pliable material to a mold. So it is done in order to set a form in a more durable material, or to make it possible to create multiple copies of a work. So the first step in casting is to make a model of the final sculpture like this. So this is the final sculpture. This is used to make a mold like this. So a casting liquid is often molten metal, but other materials such as clay, plaster, acrylic polymers, or glass were used. And it is poured into the mold, and when it hardened, the result is a detailed replica of the original model. So there is a video about casting sculpture process. So please watch it for understanding this complicated process. And now we just looked over the traditional sculpture styles. And now we're gonna see the innovative sculpture styles in modern. In modern, there are diverse types of sculpture we can see, such as earthworks, construction, assemblage, ready-made, kinetic and light sculpture, and installation. So let's see each of the innovative sculpture styles. So this is earthwork. Can you find the feature of this work? What's the material of this work?
Rocks.
Rocks, yes.
And water.
Water, yes, yes, exactly. Very good. So we can see the sculptor used the natural material from the earth. That's right. So prehistoric artists of the Americas made monumental sculptures that used the surface of the earth itself as material. So this was additive sculpture on a very large scale. And the best known modern earthwork is Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty in the Great Salt Lake in Utah. So Smithson chose a spiral shape natural found in shells, crystals, and even galaxies. And the coiled artwork was made by dumping 6,550 tons of rock and dirt of dump trucks, and gradually paving a spiraling roadbed out into the Salt Lake. And let's see the construction. So the idea of constructing sculptures is relatively new. Method for doing so have proliferated with the growth of standardized engineered materials such as sheet metals and plastics. In the late 19th century, sculptors began to look beyond traditional curved or cast forms to the process of constructing. So this is British artist Damien Hirst's work, and he made his work the physical impossibility of death in the mind of someone living out of a large tank full of formaldehyde in which he suspended a dead shark. So this is a real shark. And of course, not every part of his work was constructed. So Hearst had a shark caught by fishermen, and the entire work resembles a dissection specimen in a biology class. And Hearst is known for creating his sculptures from unusual objects that contrast life and death. And the next new sculpture style is assemblage. The practice of gathering objects and fabricating them into a work of art is called assemblage. The gathered objects, sometimes called found objects, are repurposed so that they support the visual ideas and compositions of the artist. And looks familiar with this, ready-made. In the early 20th century, a few artists began to create works using as raw materials artifacts that already existed. And sometimes they simply decided the found object were works of art. So this is Pablo Picasso's work. Can you guess what's the material?
Is that a
Metal.
bicycle seat?
That's right. This is a bicycle seat. And what is this?
The handle, maybe?
That's right. That's right. It's made up with the bicycle's seats and the handlebar. That's right. And he created a bull's head. So such artworks are known as ready-made. Now everyone knows ready-made, right? We saw, a question in the midterm. It was very first question. So it's just same as the Marcel Duchamp's fountain work, the male's urinal work. Yeah. And that was the new style of art. And here's another innovative sculpture style, kinetic and light sculpture. What's the meaning of kinetic, everyone?
Like magnetic?
It's moving.
Moving? Okay.
Yes, it means movement. So technological advances in our society have created more opportunities for creativity. And sculptors who work with movement and light express their ideas in ways that would not have been possible just a century or two before. These moving, kinetic, and lighted sculpture works, similarly to those of the constructivist, relying on mechanical engineering as well as the creative input of the artist. And sculpture that moves is called kinetic sculpture. And the last innovative sculpture style is installation. What's the installation, everyone? This is an installation work. Can you guess what it is? What types of art?
An art that's like installed, maybe.
Yes, installed in a space. Yes, yes. The work is using a space. Very good. And look at the viewers. They are lying on the sofa, lying on the table to see the work, right? So the viewers can walk in through the work of art when the artist use the installation work. So that is the installation. So modern artists have explored many ways of expanding the range of sculpture as a medium. And installation sculpture involves the construction of a space or the assembly of objects to create an environment. And we are encouraged to experience the work physically using all our sense, perhaps entering the work itself. So these are, so this is called installation. So we just saw the new types of sculpture method, and now we recognize there are lots of sculpture in diverse ways around us. So I hope to understand the flow of the sculpture in art through this chapter. And we have a discussion today, which is very simple and easy, since it's right next to the day of the midterm. All right, so this is today's topic. So what is the difference between a traditional sculpture and an installation? As the viewer, which one do you prefer and why? So please answer this question by tonight, and by tomorrow, I need you to reply to your peers.
Professor, was that last example installation?
Oh, yes, yes. So
Was
you,
that the only one that was on there?
no, it's just, the general term, not only for the
Okay.
installation work. So you can just, say, oh, I just prefer the installation work, because, I can see inside of the work, yes, for example, or I prefer, a sculpture, the traditional way of sculpture,
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.